All right, perfect. Thank you, Sajida, for that warm welcome. Like Sajida said, I've done MST, all across the world. And before last year, I've only been to a couple places in Texas, like Houston, Dallas, and just with MST, I think I've covered every corner of your beautiful state, learning about the East, Texas, West Texas, South, North. It's a huge state. So, I've had a lot of fun, riding around and talking to a lot of you guys here on the phone. So what we want to do today is just give you guys, you know, a kind of like a snapshot of MST and how it works in Texas. So, what is MST? We throw those letters around, a lot. MST just stands for multiple systems therapy. We call it multi-systemic therapy. It's basically a community-based treatment where we work with high level, high risk youth, delinquent youth. And we need to have high quality services and a high structured clinical supervision process when you work with these kids, because these are your kids who are at risk of doing some high level crime at any given time, whether it could be a shooting, whether it could be selling, drugs, whether it could be mental health needs, suicide attempts. These are your kids with high risk behaviors. And what we like to do with MST, we want to focus on giving the parents the power, because we know when you're dealing with high risk kids, to have sustainable treatment gains, you have to empower the parents. So from our standpoint, we have to find something good that the parent does well. We have to uplift them and give them the power they need to control these behaviors, because the therapist only goes out once or twice a week, maybe 3 to 4 times a week, but the parent or the caregiver is living with them 24/7. So they have to have those tools. Within MSC, the client is the entire ecology. So when we say entire ecology, that means we just don't go to the home to treat the family. We're treating the family in different ecologies. We work with the kid in the school system. We're working with the peers. We're working with teachers. We're working with people in the neighborhood. It really takes that whole, saying it takes a village to raise a family. We really believe that at MSC. We believe we have to treat the whole ecology as a client. And what else that makes MSC very successful? So we have a very structural clinical supervision and QA process, and a lot of people on this call will attest to that. They have to meet weekly. They have to review all their cases. They have to provide treatment summaries. They have to be critiqued by clinical supervisors. It has to go to another level of critique by MSC experts. And those experts get critiqued by coaches. So we have a lot of eyes on these families week to week to ensure they're getting the services they need. Next slide. MSC is a worldwide phenomenon. We're in all these different countries, as you see on the map. Next slide. So we're in 34 states. In some of those states, we have what we call statewide infrastructure, like we do in Texas. That just means that we have states across different segments of the state. We don't just have one team in a larger city and no teams in like smaller rural areas. We have a whole statewide infrastructure, and that's in Connecticut, Hawaii, New Mexico, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, Louisiana. There's a couple other states that we also have infrastructure, like Georgia, for one. And as you can see, we're in 16 different countries, right? So there's, people all over the world utilize this model because it works with high risk kids. Next slide. So there's some underlying assumption with MST. We believe that accountability for engagement rests on the MST team. The therapists, they have to have strong engagement to get caregivers to want to participate. We know that engagement is key to those outcomes that we're looking for. And, one of the things, we do to get that engagement, we like to engage those caregivers around their goals. So, when a kid's coming from court, or we have a kid that's coming back from placement with child welfare, we know that the agency is going to have certain treatment goals and treatment plans, and we're going to incorporate those plans and those goals. But it's also important to have the caregiver goals, and we want them to be a active participant. So we really build a lot of our treatment plans around their needs and their wants around their child's behavior. We always believe that low engagement can be solved. We recognize that most of our clients are doing the best that they can, right? It's hard raising kids. Some of us on the call who have teenagers, we realize how hard it is if you have a kid who's not getting into trouble. So, we know these parents got a lot on them. And we believe that engagement is an ongoing process. And that engagement starts the first contact. As soon as that first phone call is made to a family, or if a therapist is meeting a family in court, we want them to be very positive and engaging, to create this atmosphere that we need for MSC to be successful. And 100%, we do not blame families at all. Like, that's a no-no in MSC. When we really try to look for that during the interview process, we're interviewing therapists and supervisors that have a blaming framework or kind of negative towards parents. We automatically screen those people out of the hiring process. Next slide. So who do we serve? We serve mostly teenagers. These are going to be your middle school kids, high school kids, 12 to 17. We do make exceptions for like a 10 to 11-year-old and some 18-year-olds. So you may have a 17-year-old that turned 18 during MST. So we'll take those kids. What do they look? They usually look like. These are kids that have what we call externalizing behavior, the thefts, substance abuse, using violent behavior. It could be sexual offense behavior. If there's other criminal behavior, those are kids that we would take. These are the kids who have been arrested. They're on probation. They've been kicked out of school. They have some type of child welfare involvement. They're in a placement, or they're coming back from placement. That's your typical MSC population. Next slide. Now, some of these kids may present, to MST or to a MSC team as oppositionally defined ADHD. Some of them may have trauma as well. A mild or moderate intellectual disability could be some kids you could potentially see. Next slide. Now, the kids that are not appropriate for MSC, we don't have research to show that MSC is appropriate with this population. These are kids who are living independently, whether they're in an independent living program, whether they're homeless, couch surfing, any situation where there's not an identified caregiver that we can run the model through. Those kids are not appropriate for MSC. Any kid that's sex offending in absence of other antisocial behavior is not appropriate. Kids with moderate to severe autism, kids who have profound intellectually impaired, have moderate to severe intellectual development disorder. Standard MSC is not appropriate. That's what we're talking about on this call. We do have an adaptation called MSC ID for that population. Any kid that's actively homicidal, suicidal, psychotic, that word active is up to interpretation. So we look at that on a case by case basis. If something may have happened 3 months ago, if it's stable now, we don't consider that active. But if there was a suicide attempt this week or last week, then it's definitely active, right? So we look at some of those on a case by case basis. And kids who have psychiatric problems who are primary reasons leading to the referral, or they have severe, serious psychiatric problems. Those youth are not appropriate for standard MSC, but once again, we do have adaptation that we would love to bring to Texas at some point in time called MSC Psych. That team is built just for high-level psychiatric kids. Next slide. What are some of the pathways to MSC that would make a referral? These are kids who are involved, like we said, with probation, child welfare, mental health, kids identified through the school system, school social workers, school counselors, kids who've been diverted from placement or court system involvement. These could be kids returning home from placement, kids returning home from foster care, could be currently in foster care with a plan of permanency in that placement. Those kids could be appropriate. Or it could be kids, within the family-based safety services or a permanent conservatorship or kinship. Those kids could definitely be appropriate for MST. Next slide. How is it implemented? MSC is implemented with a small team of usually 2 to 4 therapists. Majority of the teams in Texas have 4 therapists per team. We keep the caseload low for those therapists. Each therapist work anywhere from 4 to 6 family on average. 5. The reason we keep it low is because um, a lot of our elementary aides cover a large area within their county. So we want to make sure, if you're servicing families and you working with intense kids, you have to factor in drive time. So we keep the caseload low so they can get out to those families when they need to. So we never give MSC therapy for more than 6 cases. It's usually around 5. Each team has a supervisor that's dedicated either 50% or 100% to that particular team. The team availability to the families are on a 24/7 basis. They have an on-call system, so all of our Texas therapists have laptop cell phones where families can reach them after hours or on the weekends when there's a need. And a lot of our teams have a rotational system every weekend for on-call as well. The duration of MST is anywhere around 3 to 5 months, but on average, every MST case runs about 120 days of service. Like I said, the work is done within different ecologies. It's done in the community, home, school, and in neighborhoods. We want to make sure we remove transportation as a barrier. Next slide. How's it implemented? The MSC staff, unlike other, home-based modalities, they do majority of all of the services within the home. They don't broker out services like anger management, substance abuse. All that's done within the MSC team. They're trained to take that lead. And the reason we train them to take that lead is because all of our research shows that when you have parents with high risk, high level youth in multiple programs and multiple modality, that leads to low engagement, that leads to them not participating. So we want the families to be having one modality at a time. The other thing with MST, we want to always focus on engagement and alignment. Engagement alignment is just not with the youth that's referred, it's with the caregiver, the family, the system that referred it, whether it's child welfare, court, probation. Engagement has to happen on each level. And that's one of the reasons we have a very strong record of retaining clients, because we're always looking at that engagement with the youth, the family, other people in the homes, and also you guys as stakeholders. Next slide. Now, one of the reasons we want to take the lead is because we do train all of our therapists to handle this myriad of services. As you see, you will see a lot of adult led services, because when we're doing systemic work, we know through the research that one of the reasons a lot of kids get into trouble is because their parents have significant issues, whether that's adult mental health, adult substance abuse, financial stressors. These are some of the things that lead the parents not being able to parent, that lead the kids getting into trouble. So we have to train our therapists to address those issues. And then we also have to address issues that may be going on individually with a young person, whether it's substance abuse, whether that's grades in school, negative peers. The therapists are trained to deal with all of these different services you see on this wheel. Next slide. Now, one of the ways, we're a little bit different with MST is that we do have tons of research, like span all the way back to the late 80s to show that if you provide, high level accountability and adherence to a set of principles, that you can get strong outcomes, and that if you empower caregivers, that they can manage these problems once you close out these cases. Next slide. And the most important thing that separates MSC from other models, that we do have a robust quality assurance system. It's research based, so we have these quality assurance surveys that the therapists and supervisors and our MSC consultant completes. So for the therapist adherence measures, we call that the TAM. That is provided by the MSC call center in Texas. They call these families um, every other week, and they're asking them questions about how treatment is going. They ask them a question about collaboration between the therapist and the caregiver. Uh, these calls are made in order to ensure that there's a level of engagement and a level of collaboration that we need in order for these goals to be met. And once these surveys are completed, they're graded. We utilize these grades to determine whether or not our therapists are adherent to the model. The same with the supervisor adherence measure. We call it the SAM. That's a similar survey that the therapist will complete on their supervisor to ensure that their supervisor is adherent to the MSC model. And then the consultant has a CAM. That's where the supervisor will rate their MSC expert consultant to make sure they're adherent to the model as well. And we know through the research that we have adherent therapists and adherent supervisor, we get good outcomes. Next slide. So the referral process, each team we start up in Texas we kind of go through this robust referral flow. It's similar, we usually have referrals that come from the community, whether that's probation officer, child welfare workers, the school system, um, whoever in the community feels that, MST is needed. Those people reach out to the MST supervisor in their area that works with their LMHA. That supervisor does kind of like a light screening to see if the referral is appropriate. If it's appropriate, they move to the next step. If it's not appropriate, then they will either look at other services within their organizations or other services in the community to refer the kid out to. If it is appropriate, they're calling the families, they're screening the families, make sure they're meeting that inclusionary criteria that I just discussed. And if it does meet the inclusionary criteria, they're assigning that to an MSC therapist to go out and work with the family. For some reason, if they don't accept, then they're kicking it back to the referral system. Next slide.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Lewis, for taking us through what MST is, who it serves, and really helping our stakeholders understand like who makes a good candidate for MST. And so what I wanted to do also was, as you talked about the MST supervisors, I really wanted to be able to share with you who they are and where they are located. And so this is the service coverage map of Texas. We have these 22 HHSC funded teams, and we have 16 providers in total, and a 90% staffed workforce, a very qualified workforce that we're really proud of. And as I go through the list of LMHAs, if the supervisor would put your name, email, and contact number in the chat. And if you as a stakeholder are working in any of these counties, feel free to also put your information on the chat so that we can have the supervisors follow up with you after this call. So first we have Betty Hartwig Center, and they are serving Callahan, Jones, Shackelford, Stevens, and Taylor counties. We have Blue Bonnet Trails Community Services serving Guadalupe, Caldwell, and Gonzales. We have the Center for Healthcare Services Clarity Child Guidance Center serving Bexar County in San Antonio. This is our newest LMHA and provider that was started just this past month. So we're really excited about this launch. We have Central County Services serving Bell, Coryell, and Milam counties. We have Denton County MHMR Center serving the Denton region. We have Gulf Coast Center Southwest Key Program serving Galveston and Brazoria. We have the Harris Center for Mental Health and IDD serving Harris County. We have Hill Country MHDD Center serving Uvalde, Comal, and Hayes. We have LifePath System serving the Collin counties. We have My Health, My Resources of Tarrant County serving Tarrant. We have North Texas Behavioral Health Authority serving Ellis, Dallas, and Kaufman. They also have an additional team in Irving that has also just started, although it's not funded by HHSC, it is also an MSD team. We have Permia Care serving Midland and Ector counties. And we have Spinotop Center serving Jefferson County. We have StarCare Specialty Health System serving Lubbock. We have Tri-County Behavioral Health Care serving Liberty, Montgomery, and Walker counties. And we have Tropical Texas Behavioral Health serving Hidalgo, Cameron, and Willacy. And so if you are involved in any of these counties, feel free to put your name and your email address in the chat, and we'll have our MST supervisors follow up with you. At the same time, we will be distributing a contact list, a Texas MST project contact list, which includes all of their contact information along with the backup supervisor's contact information as well. So moving forward, this Texas project is now 2 years old, and because of that, we're able to share some of the key outcomes with you based on the inclusionary criteria, which Mr. Lewis had gone through with you earlier, where all youth were referred due to being at risk of serious system consequences, including out-of-home placement. It is notable that 86% of the time, MST was able to help the families maintain a safe, stable home environment, which therefore avoids an out-of-home placement and maximizes cost savings relative to incarceration and alternative treatments. Out of those discharged, 87% of youth were in school or working, and 89% did not have any new arrest. And if you're like me, who's really always looking to see what are some programs out there wanting to help our youth to stay away from the streets and from crime and for really just start living a fruitful and thriving life, MST shows that at most of the time we have hit our targets of almost we have, with our MST ultimate targets is 90%, and we're so close to that target number, which really speaks to the significant impact that MST has on youth and families in need of community-based services to prevent out-of-home placements and further system involvement. So as you can see, the chart on the right, we are the ones in the bar charts in green, and the bar charts in blue are the targets for MST. We're right there within just 2 years of implementation. So kudos to all our providers for the hard work they've put in to work with our kids and their families. Now, this project is dependent on referrals from the community, the county, the state, and the providers have done a tremendous job building these relationships with different stakeholders. So for those of you here who were invited by the providers, I want to say thank you for being here. It shows your relationship together with our providers. And those who are new to this project, I wanted to share with you that the project receives referrals from multiple sources. If you look at the pie chart, 40% of our referrals come from the juvenile probation departments. 26% of them come from mental health agencies. 13% comes from child welfare. 9% comes from education institutions. And you'll see smaller percentages from other stakeholders, where 61 referrals were self-referred. We have 42 were referred by the courts, 40 by police departments, 7 from omnibus agencies, 6 from parole, substance abuse agencies had 4, and many other types of referral sources. We had about 53 of those. I hope this is helpful to see that MST serves any youth who meets inclusionary criteria and can be referred from any of these sources. So since we had launched in 2023, this chart is just to show that we have been really rocking and rolling in the state of Texas, serving youth just on a tremendous incline with a real steady rise of referrals. And, we can look at it from a very bi-yearly count starting from January 2023 all the way to where we are now. And if you look at the July to December 2024 data point, there were close to 600 referrals received. And just within 3 months in 2025 until March, we are already at 400 referrals, which shows that we're really set to see the growth line continue to rise. All right, so I'm really excited to introduce to you one of our providers from Harris Center for Mental Health and IDD. Ms. Aisha Locke, the MST supervisor, will be sharing with you a success story of a child and family she served in in the Harris County. Aisha?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Hi, so as Sujita explained, I'm the MST supervisor here at the Harris Center, servicing Harris County. So I really wanted to share one of my success stories here at the Harris Center. My experience with MST has been very long. I did MST back in New York, so I'm very, very aligned with our program and the things that we do within the community. So we had a youth who was 16 years old. Some of his behaviors were physical and violent, aggressive behaviors, verbally aggressive behavior, destruction of property, substance use. He was, right when we got to him, he was transitioning into a alternative school due to negative behaviors, and he was at a risk of failure. His substance abuse extended to not only alcohol, but also drugs and vaping as well, which was really, really big for us at that time. When we got with him, when we started working with him, he had a connection with one of the owners of the liquor stores that was around his neighborhood. He had he was able to jimmy the lock on his bedroom door because he was on the first floor. He was able to jimmy his lock on his bedroom door to be able to climb out and run away. And he had a really, really bad relationship with his older sister who lived in the home. So throughout treatment, we were really able to empower the parents, following our MST model and getting a lot of things done within the home. We were able to put cameras alongside the home to know when the youth has left, to notify the parents when the youth has left. The locks were changed on the windows. We were able to, one of the biggest successes where we were able to garner a relationship with the store owner for the liquor store who lived who lived down the street from the family, and be able to let the family know, let the owner know that they had a youth who was coming into the store being able to buy liquor. They were able to provide the the owner with a picture of the youth, so every one of his employees was able to know that he was underage and to not serve him any liquor. Um, we were able to empower the parents to do room checks for any drugs, any alcohol usage within the home, and really was able to use the relationship between the youth and his sister, and really understanding through the MST process that his relationship with her and him admitting that he was the cause of the decline in their relationship was having him project his behaviors and having him act out. So through using methods such as the stop and wait method, the one item when talking method, we were really able to garner the relationship between all of the systems involved. At the end of treatment, the youth is no longer in an alternative school and has been able to sustain his positive behaviors when he returned back to his school. He's no longer hanging out with his negative peer influence. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, we were able to also get him involved, the parents involved with a local mentor program. So he had a male mentor that he sees every single week. His relationship with his sister has really, really changed and improved a lot. They hang out more, so he doesn't even have time to spend with his negative peers. The interventions that the parents were able to put into place, along with safety plans, really, really was able to sustain his positive behaviors. So that's us. That's one of our success stories. I just want to thank you guys for having us, and really being able to show everyone how well this program works.
Thank you so much, Aisha. That was a really beautiful story, and congratulations to the Harris Center for, all the great work that you're doing. I would love for you to put I think you put your information on there. If anyone is serving Harris County, you are open to contacting Aisha for more referrals. Thank you again. And the next provider I'd like to call upon is Tri-County Behavioral Healthcare. Ms. Lauren Prince is the MSC supervisor. Her information is on the screen. I would love to pass the time to you now, Lauren.
Okay. Hi, thanks, Sajida. So I'm with Tri-County, and we serve Montgomery, Liberty, and Walker counties. And our success story today comes from a youth in one of our more rural areas. Excuse me. He's 14 years old. He was referred to us for primarily behaviors around, I apologize, my voice is going out. He's mainly referred for behaviors around physical aggression, verbal aggression, a lot of destruction of property, and academic failure. Like I said, he was a youth in one of our more rural areas. His family was primarily Spanish speaking. And in addition, he also had some intellectual and developmental delays that we were working with. Some of the interventions that his therapist was able to use with the family to achieve the goals that we had set out for them included facilitating more appropriate and consistent home and school communication, and really training the parents and advocating for themselves and for their youth, especially around translation services, and just being able to be aware of what's going on with the youth and what they need to see happen for him in the school setting. because he was also receiving special education services, or should be. She also provided psychoeducation on his developmental level and worked with the family a lot in role playing, the utilization of the behavior management techniques that we were able to assess would be beneficial to help eliminate the behaviors that we were seeing. She worked with them to develop a lot of natural supports for the family ecology, facilitating conversations between caregivers and those supports so that they felt comfortable in sustaining that planning and those dynamics after we were gone. She worked a lot on education and practice of de-escalation strategies for the youth and for the entire family unit. There were a lot of dynamics going on in that home where the engagement would just escalate further, not just with him, but with the other siblings in the home as well. So she did spend a lot of time in that area and also doing some structural family therapy sessions to navigate some of the breakdown in their communication patterns and put some more appropriate, healthy communication options in place for them. She worked through emotional regulation work for both caregivers and youth for them to be in a healthier space, to be able to interact with each other and to recognize when they weren't in that headspace and how to take a break in a way that was effective. She worked on that with them through modeling of those skills and then also just education and what co-regulation looks like. Some of the challenges that she faced navigating with this case was there was a breakdown in the school, like I mentioned before, school and home communication and school system, how they were able to effectively address the client's educational needs. She consulted with the appropriate people in the school district and then helping the parents identify and advocate on youth rights and understand who the stakeholders were to bring them all to the table and get to a better place with where this youth needed to be to have his educational needs met. He has begun integration back into in-person schooling and which is a big positive. Something also around the physical and verbal aggression, that destruction of property that was happening, our goals around eliminating or significantly decreasing that were also met. Because of that history, at times the caregivers would become fearful of his response, and there were points where they considered sending him to an RTC for his safety, for safety of the children in the home. And so a lot of those interventions I mentioned, she worked through with them, identifying where those breakdowns were, where the fears were, and what we could do to help overcome that. And she was really able to empower them around the areas of things that they could control and gained alignment to make small steps towards change. And so they really backed off of that and saw how useful this service was to the youth and being within MST. And they implemented a lot of those tools across their family with the other children in the home. And we were able to maintain him at home and not have him go to placement. He was able to achieve all goals that were set out for him, the elimination of physical aggression, property destruction, and decrease in verbal aggression. And as of checking, I think it was this past week, he's passing all of his classes through that like integration back into in-person schooling and some of those structured supports that were in place. So it was a really, really good case for her to work on. Help the family.
Wow, Lauren, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm seeing lots of hearts and claps in the chat. And please, of course, encourage our providers and all the therapists who are doing this very hard work. I mean, Tri-County was able to keep him out of RTC, keep him in school, help even other family members. And so this is like a real big win. And just congratulations for all this work. And we look forward to seeing more youth being served as well. You provided hope for a lot of our youth who are in similar situations. And so thank you for sharing this story. Yeah, and we have one final story that will be shared by LifePath Systems. We'd like to call upon Ms. Ebony McGrew, who's the program supervisor, and they serve Collin counties. Ebony, it's all yours.
There we go. Hello. Awesome. It's always so good to hear so many stories. Like I feel like we live in a bubble sometimes. So it's always nice and encouraging to hear y'all's stories. So today I'm just sharing a story about a kiddo that we had about a year ago in MST. He was 15, and he had been struggling with a lot of already like significant behavior. So he had multiple school sanctions, multiple school expulsions from different schools because of terroristic threats, and just threatening that he was going to harm other people in the school. Mom was a single parent, and she had no supports. She was kind of cut off from her family because of her kiddo. And so she just was really in desperate need by the time she got to MST. So they were referred over by our agency. They were in line for another program at our agency. And so we decided to give MST a shot before they went into that program. And so his behaviors coming into the program were physical and verbal aggression, quite a bit of property destruction, some high-risk sexual behaviors, obviously the terroristic threats, and then a lot of non-compliance at home and school. And so everything that mom tried to get him to do was just to fight. He just kind of did whatever he wanted to, both in the classroom and at home. And so mom was just really distraught when she got to MST. And so we made our goals, of course, as we went through the intake process, to decrease a lot of those behaviors, with a primary focus on the physical aggression and the terroristic threats at school, because this youth had just never really been successful in any kind of regular school setting. And so the therapist worked really hard with mom first to just get her more comfortable with addressing the youth, even just asking him to get up for school. And so really kind of empowering her and working through those negative cognitions that she had around, disciplining the youth, and just not being afraid to approach him because of his physical behavior or his physical aggression. And so the therapist spent a lot of the time at the very beginning of treatment just building mom's confidence. Doing a lot of cognitive work, doing a lot of family sessions where both the youth and the mom were present to talk through some previous things that were going on. And because we started this case in the summer, so we hadn't gotten to school yet. So that's kind of context. But so as we got closer and closer to school getting started and started implementing some AM, PM routines, we saw more resistance from the youth. And so mom had to learn how to, we put a de-escalation plan in place. We put, just how do we implement consequences and rewards in this home without the youth escalating, right? So the therapist worked with her on, how to stand her ground, how to stay calm, when to disengage was really important for this family. And then also just being able to hold and set limits with this youth, right? So whenever he started to do well, mom tended to want to let up a little bit. And so it took the therapist really having some doing, fits in session with her and really kind of helping her to understand the necessity for keeping to the plans and sticking to the plans to continue to see some consistency in the youth's behavior. And so as they kind of began to work through those AM, PM routines, they also implemented a chore chart. And really kind of created some autonomy in the youth because mom was a single mom. And so we talked about, how to prepare the youth to go back into the school system, right? And so, around that end of July, early August time, the therapist worked a lot with mom on contacting different school contacts and kind of getting together his 504 and IEP plan, making sure that the teachers knew who she was. And so really kind of increasing that school collaboration piece before the youth even started school. And so once he started school, he was able to join ROTC. And so we ended their case right around that early September mark. And so we were able to see that the youth had really gone into the school system with some anxiety around what it was going to be like, but they were able to work through that in that last month of treatment. And so we saw him excel in ROTC at the very beginning. And then also making more positive peers and being able to keep up with his schoolwork and not being late to miss the bus, things like that. Those were small improvements that meant a lot to mom because of how bad his previous experiences with school had been. And so, a few months later, Mom decided to turn in a success story for us. And so just wanted to read this last quote about where we landed in treatment. So we had about 5 to 6 weeks where we had gone without any referral behaviors. And then Mom says this: the therapist worked with me on honing my parenting style and worked with my child to honor my boundaries and manage his emotions. So now our lives are not just manageable, but peaceful and happy. He started 9th grade this year and gets himself on the bus and from home every day. He hasn't missed a day of class or school since starting 10 weeks ago. His grades are high. His teachers praise him. And he's involved in JROTC, which is a leadership-based military program style, which requires physical fitness, serving the community through volunteering, and maintaining high standards at school. He's amicable, kind, helpful at home, and good at school. He doesn't argue with me anymore, and he's shown himself to be worthy of trust, following through daily with what is asked of him. So checked in with Mom not too long ago in March, and she said he's still doing really well. It's always exciting to hear those stories and see the impact that our therapists are making. And so it just really fills my heart. So I'm really excited to be a part of this program and what we're doing in Texas.
Thank you so much, Ebony. And that's really filled our hearts too. That was such a great story to just see how the youth just turned around. And just in 5 months, I mean, that's such significant work that's being done in such intensive way, just to help the family like be able to get through not just the 5 months, but like many, many months of their lives, like years after, to generalize their treatment gains. So thank you so much again for sharing that. And we appreciate all the work that Life Path Systems is doing. So congratulations to Life Path. And, we hope to have more youth served by you guys in the near future as well. So once again, thank you so much to our 3 guest presenters for sharing their success stories. And we're hopeful that these success stories help you hear, how MST is really implemented in the real world and how our young people and their families are being served by these wonderful providers. Now, whatever you've heard today, this is the same quality of work that all our providers are putting in. They're putting in the work. They have such a strong supervision and quality assurance process that Mr. Lewis had talked about, and that extends to everybody. And so you can expect that all the young people that come through our doors and are served by our providers are going to be served with that high quality service of multi-systemic therapy. So once again, I just want to go back to our presentation and wanted to share with you that I've put the contact list in the chat. I don't know if you're able to access it, but if not, we will also be sending out an email with this information. So not to worry about whether you can open the file or not. And some follow-ups will be made by providers. So if you are part of any of these counties that were talked about today, and thank you, Spinotop, for adding on the counties. I've added that to the list that I just uploaded. And so if you're part of any of these counties, feel free to write your information in the chat, and the providers can receive your information and follow up with you accordingly. Now we're going to transition into a question and answer session. The floor is open for any questions that you may have for any of our providers or MST or EBA. So just feel free to ask away.
Hi, good morning. I have a question. This is Jamie from the Midlothian Police Department, Crisis
Hi,
Intervention
Jamie.
Unit. Hi. I wanted to know a little bit more. I know you guys talked about the MST standard. Is there a little bit more information that CIDRI can provide for the MST ideal one?
Yeah, I think he was talking about the MST ID. Seth, are you here to answer that question?
Yeah. There was
Yes, perfect.
that's the MSD ID for kids who are intellectually impaired. It's a model specifically derived from standard MSC, but just for that specific population. We can provide the information for you on that particular model. It was just designed out of, I want to say, the UK. That's where our model developer lives, and he kind of oversees not only the teams in the UK, but also the ID teams here in the United States as well. And we can definitely hook you up with those folks if you have an interest in that particular adaptation, MST.
Yes, please. I do. I have one I was telling Deidre about that. We've been trying to assist this parent with her child. He's 10, and I know you said you guys do case by case situations and you'll assess, but he's 10 years old, and he's intellectual, but he's highly aggressive, and he actually just assaulted 4 of our officers the other day. No charges were brought against him, obviously, because he was going through a crisis. But I wanted to see, it sounded like the standard was not going to be the best route for him, but I'm going to do whatever you guys think is the best route.
Yeah, I would strongly suggest if you have MST in your area, to consult with your MST clinical supervisor, an expert, and set up a meeting to go over that case in particular
Okay.
in detail, and they will let you know if it's appropriate or not. It sounds like it's probably is appropriate for standard, but I would just staff it with your local MSC team.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sid and Jamie, for the question. And just for some clarification, at this moment, the Texas project does the MST standard, and it doesn't have the adaptations at this moment. But like Seth had suggested, talking with your MST supervisor and staffing the case will help identify if this youth is appropriate for MST standard for right now. Thank you again for your question. And let's see if there's anyone else who may have a question. I know some people are writing questions in the chat. I see someone.
Sujit, I want to just address the answer in the chat from Darius
Sure.
about working with FFT. So just FYI, FFT and MSC is under the same umbrella. We have the same, basically it's the same company. It's called Empower Community Care that oversees both models. So a lot of times FFT, if kids don't do well in FFT or transition out of FFT and still have more severe problems, those FFT kids are stepped up into MST. So we could talk to you about how FFT kind of jives with MST programs as well, if that's a
Yes,
question.
Mr. Lewis, that would be super
Yeah.
helpful. And I realized that FFT, I've been with them for a few years, maybe 10 years, and they got bought out by Empower. So that's good to know. So we are partnering in that aspect. I'd love to have further conversations about that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. FFT, MST, same company.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That was a bunch of acronyms that just flew right over my head. If we could just take a moment to get clarity on those acronyms that you just used, that would be helpful.
I can
Yes.
describe. Oh, go ahead,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Lewis. My apologies.
So go ahead, Darius. Go ahead and describe FFT.
Yeah, so FFT is functional family therapy. And so we do very similar things to MST. And to be truthful and transparent, oftentimes it's seen as almost competing models. And I definitely didn't want to do that in Dallas County or in any other county. But what we do is we work with exact same population. However, just as Mr. Lewis alluded to, if there's a higher level of care that's needed, the short version, without going through all of it, we meet families once a week. And what I'm hearing here is that there's going to be more than once a week, 2-3 times a week, and more intensive cases. When we have that, we usually refer out. We don't know who to refer out to, Lisette. We don't know who to refer out to. This is a great resource, and we want to partner with them. So FFT is functional family therapy, and I just found out that we're under the same umbrella parent company.
And just to make it a little bit clearer, so with family functional therapy, all of the work is with the family. There's no sessions that take place outside of the family. I mean, sometimes they may meet outside of the family dynamic. They may meet at a different place, but all of the clinical work is with just the family. It's not systemic in nature. So they're not looking at school factors, peer factors, community factors. It's just about fixing the family because their theory is that all external behavior is based off of a breakdown within the family. So that's kind of like the main difference.
That is
Exactly.
very helpful. MSD?
MST stands for multi-systemic therapy, meaning that the therapy.
Okay. I'm sorry, sir. I thought it was a D as in dog. I thought it was another acronym
No,
thrown out. I got that.
MST. I'm sorry.
Okay,
MST.
I got it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. I'm glad you asked us to clarify the alphabet soup.
Yes. We all live in that bowl, don't we?
Yes. All right. Any other questions that may arise from this presentation?
Sujita, this is Segret again. I just want to answer one question. Someone said they didn't see their provider Liberty in the slide that you had. So the slide that Sujita went over was all of the MSC teams that are basically funded by HHSC. So there are some MSC teams in the state of Texas that are not funded by HHSC, and that team that's referred to in the chat, Liberty, is one of those teams. So I just want to notate that.
Yes, thank you so much, Seth, for clarifying that. And Mr. Sanchez, if you needed information on Liberty Aftercare Services, we can find a way to pass that on to you. But yes, they are not funded by HHSC, which is why they were not in that list, but they were on our map to show that where MST is located all around Texas. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and launch some polls so that we can, better understand how this presentation has helped you to learn more about MST. So please go ahead and just click on your response on the screen, and I'm going to launch the first one. And feel free to keep asking questions. It's this time we have together. We have about 3 more minutes, so. Just to check if you are able to see the poll.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you.
Sajida, I see 2 like equations in the poll. We don't see any questions or anything.
Oh, okay. So sorry about that. Let me see if I needed to. Thank you for letting me know. Let's see. Let me try this again. Are you able to see that question right now?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay. This is the first time I'm trying the polls on Teams. If you're like me, I use Zoom all the time. So this is a little bit of a new thing. So I appreciate your patience. All right, and the next poll was actually asking if you'd like to connect with your local MST provider, but since everyone has already put their names on the chat, and if you haven't, you can continue to do so. I will leave that one out, and then I will launch my final question. And this is just the last question for the poll. For those who are asking if this recording will be shared, we are happy to share it with you, and you can feel free to share this with your staff members, your stakeholders, and yeah, just we're looking to expand the knowledge and information about MST, and increase appropriate referrals to this program. So feel free to use it how you would like to. All right. Thank you so much, Darius. I'm glad that you're willing to share this training with your team. Okay. Thank you so much again, everybody. It is 11 o'clock. We are at the top of the hour. We hope that you were able to benefit from this presentation, and we will continue to engage with you in different ways. The providers are excited to see you here today, and the support that's given for this program is tremendous and incredible. So once again, please join me in thanking every provider that's present here today doing this hard work on the ground. You can put a heart, you can put a clap, however you like to encourage them, feel free to do that. And I hope that you have a wonderful weekend ahead and refreshing and restful one. And so thank you again and enjoy your Friday. Bye, everybody.